You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and obviously, there's a lot of NBA news to talk about today with the NBA trade deadline. There may be a hodgepodge at the end, depending on how I'm doing with time, but I'm just going to jump right into the NBA, and I'm going to go chronologically here, and that means that I will start with the Dewayne Dedmon trade, a trade that makes absolutely no sense for the Atlanta Hawks. Look, we all knew that they were going to trade a center. Alex Len said basically as much yesterday in a pregame interview. He basically intimated that he knew that he was going to be traded. That's fine. I have no problem with Alex Len being traded. Len's not a bad player, but he's certainly not great, and like I said, the Hawks have a bunch of centers. But to get a center back for him in Dedmon, the two of them are very, very similar. Dedmon may be a little better, but Dedmon's on a worse contract, and he's gonna struggle to fit back in with the Hawks. This is a new Hawks team with the addition of Clint Capella. I don't like the idea of Dewayne Dedmon going back to the Hawks. They have too many centers. They have Capella, Damian Jones, Bruno Fernando, John Collins. Where are you playing Dedmon? And to make matters worse, they traded Jabari Parker also. I am such a huge fan of Jabari Parker. I understand that he can't shoot threes. And he's not a good player for the modern NBA that needs a stretch four. I get that. But this guy is still putting up 15 points a game. He's still putting up 6 rebounds a game and 2 assists. And his defense has gotten exponentially better. Yes, he's had injury concerns all throughout his career. I understand that. And you can't trust him to be an integral piece of a championship team because he's going to miss a sizable percentage of the season. But for a team like the Hawks, a team that's going to be so pick and roll heavy with Young and Capella, you need guys who are going to stretch the floor, and that's what Parker does. He stretches the floor, and then he slashes to the basket. The Hawks traded for a better version of a player they already had, and did so by giving up Jabari Parker. Not worth it. Getting 2 second-rounders back. Not worth it. The Kings easily win this trade. Dewayne Dedmon has been disgruntled for a while. There have been trade rumors surrounding him for a long time. You gotta wonder why the Kings even signed him. They had cap space and they signed Dedmon. You know, fine. Dedmon had a good year last year, but this year he wasn't used at all. He was garbage. He was out of the rotation. But you gotta give the Kings credit for at least getting something for him. I have no idea if Parker and Len are going to be on the Kings next year. But what I do know is that the Kings got the best player in this deal in Parker. There's still talent there. You can see it. Again, he's never going to be the best player on a championship-winning team, and he certainly can't be relied on for a championship-winning team. But the Kings are so far away from that, it's not even funny. They have the ability to put up with his injury concerns. They're doing it with Bagley. They can do it with Parker. Yeah, they got worse a little bit at center. Dedmon's better than Len, but again, Dedmon was out of the rotation. He was really unhappy. This is an easy win for the Kings. Moving on now to a story that kind of flew under the radar a little bit, but it shouldn't have, and that is the Grizzlies locking up Dillon Brooks to a big extension. He got a 3-year deal worth $35 million. This is a guy who last year was out of the rotation at some point and then got hurt. Missed a good chunk of the season because he needed surgery on his right big toe. You can't make that up. But to his credit, he came back and he's going to be a finalist for Most Improved Player this year. He is averaging 16 points a game, 3.5 rebounds, and 2 assists, all while shooting 40% from 3. You can't do much better than that if you're Dillon Brooks. This is a great move for the Grizzlies. He's an integral part of the young core that they have, a great young core. This is a fun Grizzlies team to watch. Taylor Jenkins is going to get Coach of the Year consideration. He's done a fantastic job with this team. Jaren Jackson and John Morant look like they're both going to be very special players for the Grizzlies for a long time. Dillon Brooks has improved. Jonas Valanciunas is a great fit on that team. Brandon Clark is emerging as a reliable sixth man. It's a very, very fun Grizzlies team. And Brooks, even at his young age of 24, is already a locker room leader. He killed Andre Iguodala for not reporting to the Grizzlies. It's like, you want to play somewhere else? We don't want you. Get out. You want to play for a playoff team? Play for us. We're a playoff team. You gotta love that if you're a Grizzlies fan. A player who just loves being a part of your team and who's not going to take crap from anyone. This kid's a keeper, man. The Grizzlies in a few years are going to be a very, very special team. I absolutely love what they're building in Memphis. Moving on now to the Alec Burks and Glenn Robinson trade. We all knew that those guys were going to be leaving the Warriors. I don't think any of us saw the Sixers coming, but it makes perfect sense for the Sixers. They wanted to add some veteran presence. They wanted to add some reliable outside shooting. And Burks and Robinson were probably the best players that they could get. The one thing I'll say about this deal that I'm not crazy about is this is probably going to cut into the playing time of Korkmaz and Feibel, two players that I really, really like. Feibel killed the Nets in a game a few weeks ago. He was a guy who I thought was just a product of Washington's defensive system, but no, this kid is a great defender. He plays the game the right way. He hustles. Very, very special player. I don't mind adding depth, especially when you're making a playoff run and adding more shooters, especially for a team like the Sixers, is fine. I have no problem with that at all. I just don't want to see the playing time of Korkmaz and Thibault impacted too much by this. As for the Warriors, they got 3 second-rounders for 2 guys that they weren't going to bring back. Obviously, this is a lost year for the Warriors. The one thing I'll say is, next year, you have a lot to look forward to. If you're a Warriors fan, Curry's going to come back. Thompson's going to come back. You'll still have Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, and probably James Wiseman. That's instantly a title contender. Yeah, you've got to flesh out the bench with some veterans, but I guarantee you there would be a bunch of players that would be willing to flock to Golden State to play there with that core in place. You gotta love that Bob Myers got 3 second-round picks for these guys who probably won't be back with the team next year. It's possible that they could be, but I don't foresee it happening. All in all, this is an even trade to me. Alright, I gotta get to a story that I didn't see coming. In my wildest dreams, I did not think that the Knicks would move this quickly to bring in a new president of basketball operations. Did I think that they were gonna wait until after the draft? Absolutely not, but to do it in advance of the trade deadline, I definitely didn't see that coming. And obviously, we know who that is. It's the former agent, Leon Rose. An out-of-the-box candidate. A guy who's well-respected within the NBA. The thing about Rose is he knows the game. Steve Mills did not know a damn thing about basketball. Leon Rose knows basketball. And he has great relationships with a bunch of players around the league. And you have to think that this is a serious push by the Knicks to make a big splash in free agency. Maybe not this coming offseason, but definitely the offseason afterwards, when the crop of talent available gets a million times better. Rose's list of clients is incredible. Joel Embiid, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Karl Anthony Towns, and Victor Oladipo. Oladipo's actually going to be a free agent in a couple years. So I would not be surprised at all if those rumors picked up Oladipo to the Knicks. Rose is also Carmelo Anthony's agent. The Knicks know him very well from that end. And he has a great reputation around the league. Here's what I don't like about this hire. He has no front office experience. None. It's the same reason why I would have been skeptical of Chauncey Billups or Kenny the Jet Smith. To bring in a guy with no front office experience to lead a team, I don't care if he's a former agent. It's incredibly risky. And the history of agents taking over and leading a sports team, it's not that good. Brody Van Wagenen is a snake oil salesman. I'd be stunned if he was still with the Mets 12 months from now. Dave Stewart failed tremendously with the Diamondbacks. Arn Tellem has done a terrible job with the Pistons. And this is my favorite part about this from Knicks fans. They're pointing to Bob Myers and Rob Pelinka. Here's the difference between the two. And the fact that I need to say this is really incredible. Myers and Pelinka were not in charge of a team when they were hired. Myers was assistant GM when he was first hired by the Warriors. Now, he took over the Warriors quickly, but he earned the right to. He still had a year to learn the ropes. Rob Pelinka, yes, he was GM. That's undeniable. But he wasn't in charge of making basketball decisions. That was Magic Johnson. When Johnson stepped down, Pelinka took over because he already had that experience. Rose has none. Supposedly he's going to bring in Worldwide Wes, William Wesley, another guy with no front office experience. They're smart guys. That's undeniable. But they shouldn't immediately make the jump from agent to running an NBA team. Go the Myers route. Be assistant GM. Go the Pelinka route. Be the GM for president of basketball operations. Look, I commend the Knicks for acting quickly. I commend them for realizing that Ujiri coming there was a remote possibility, to say the least. All I can say is, I don't think this is going to work out. This guy has no front office experience. The list of agents coming in with no front office experience is a really bad one. And this signals that the Knicks have not learned their lesson for trying to go after the quick fix. They're still going to try to go after superstars in free agency, even when they're garbage. Here's the thing that I implore every NBA player to ask Leon Rose when he's pitching them on joining the Knicks. If you were my agent and you were not paid by the Knicks, would you advise me to sign with them? And if the answer is yes, he's lying to you. If all you're concerned about is money and being the best player on a team, a la Julius Randle or Marcus Morris, go to the Knicks. But if you actually want to win and improve your legacy, don't go to the Knicks. Sadly, we're going to have to hear more of this nonsense for a long time. Moving on now to another Grizzlies story, and this is one that took a while to be consummated, but it is official. The Grizzlies traded Andre Iguodala, Solomon Hill, and Jay Crowder to the Heat for James Johnson, Dion Waiters, and Justice Winslow. I'll start with the Grizzlies side of things. We all knew that Iguodala was going to be moved. It was just a matter of when, not if. You know, you can't blame him for initially not wanting to report to the team. No one thought that the Grizzlies were going to be this good. And there's nothing wrong with a future Hall of Famer in Iguodala wanting to further solidify his legacy. I know there are some people that don't think that he's a future Hall of Famer, but he's a Finals MVP, one of the few people to slow down LeBron James in the playoff series, and is a multiple-time NBA champion. To me, that's a Hall of Famer. But that's not the point of this. The point is to talk about how he treated the Grizzlies. Nothing wrong with initially sitting out, but then when they start playing well, you know, he still sits out. I guess pride comes before the fall. And you have Dylan Brooks killing him for sitting out. You don't want to be here? Get out. We don't want you here anyway. I still love that. But he worked his way to the Heat. And look, the Heat are a better team than the Grizzlies, but not by much. The Grizzlies are going to be out in the first round, and the Heat will probably be out in the second round. Still, though, I don't like how he treated the Grizzlies. Again, I like Iguodala, but he could have gone about this better. Just report to the team when they're playing well. Just own it and say you were wrong. Don't salt the earth like you did. It's just a classless move on his part. But on to how he's going to fit with the Heat. And by the way, as part of this deal, he's going to get a 2-year extension worth $30 million. At first, I was confused about his fit. But then I thought about it. Here's what I think the Heat are going to do. And bear in mind, this is when everyone is healthy. Nunn, Dragic, Butler, Hero, Iguodala, Robinson, Adebayo, Crowder, and Leonard, Olynyk. Solomon Hill is probably going to be bought out. He's on an expiring deal. He's not very good. There's no room for him anyway. Buy him out and open up a roster spot. At first, I was confused about this because the Heat have a lot of wing players, but no, it can work. I don't mind them giving him an extension. He played really well last year. We have no idea how he's going to do this year, but it's worth the gamble. The Heat's window to win is now. And I commend Pat Riley for taking that risk, realizing what his title window is, and doing everything he can to maximize it. When you look at this trade for the Grizzlies, it makes perfect sense for them also. Justice Winslow fits their age range. He's a guy who really never realized the immense potential that he had. He got hurt a lot. And best case scenario, he's the 4th best player on a title-winning team. And even then, that seems unlikely. He's probably just going to be an average starter for a title-winning team. Or a role player for a title-winning team. But still, he fits the Grizzlies' age range. I do like the idea of Winslow playing with Morant, Brooks, Jackson, and Valanciunas. I do think he'll start for the Grizzlies and they'll keep Clark in his 6th-man role, where he's really thrived. Dion Waiters, I think, is going to be a good fit for the Grizzlies at the backup, too. He's a better player than DeAnthony Melton. I understand that he's been disgruntled, but he still has talent. I've always liked him, even when he was with the Cavs. I thought he was overdrafted, but he proved me wrong, and he's turned into an effective 3-point shooter. It just didn't work with him in Miami. I think he'll be much better in Memphis. James Johnson, I was a little confused about that for a second, but the Grizzlies love going small. They've been going with only one center for really the whole season. It's incredible to watch them play. They're such a fun team. They really are. I know I said that earlier, but I'll repeat it. I'd have preferred them to bring in a guy like Kelly Olynyk instead of James Johnson, but they're very comfortable with small ball. Johnson fits that better. Is he overpaid? Yes, but he's a good backup. He's not great, but he's not bad. He's just a good backup. All in all, I'll give this a 52-48 edge to the Heat. Just because Iguodala is a better player than Winslow, and they cleared out some bad contracts in Waiters and Johnson, which they desperately needed to do because their payroll is exorbitant, to say the least. Quick amendment before I move on to the next story, and I know I'm going a little out of order here, but it just flows so perfectly with what I was just talking about. The Grizzlies traded James Johnson to the Wolves for Gorgie Dieng. So you remember when I said that the Grizzlies needed a backup center, and I'd have preferred Olynyk? Well, they had something else in the works. Gorgie Dieng. Is Dieng better than Olynyk? No. But he's a decent backup center. He doesn't need to be great. He's just decent. He's massively overpaid, but Johnson's massively overpaid anyway. So I'm giving the edge to the Grizzlies. Now on to the biggest trade of the deadline. The Timberwolves finally getting a guy who they've coveted for months. And that is one of my favorite players, yes I am biased, D'Angelo Russell. Holy cannoli. What a coup for the Timberwolves. Karl Anthony Towns was unhappy because they traded Robert Covington, and Towns and Covington are close. But Towns and Russell are closer. In fact, there was a Slam magazine article that said that Towns, Russell, and Devin Booker have made a pact to play together for at least one season before they all retire. Devin Booker to the Timberwolves, let's do it! Look, this is a fantastic trade for the Timberwolves. Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell, those pick and rolls are going to be lethal. Absolutely lethal. And the best part about this deal is the Timberwolves roster is so fluid, they really only have two untouchables, Towns and Russell. That's it. They can get 13 other players to fit around Towns and Russell. Just revolve the roster around them. And that's a playoff team. Jared Culver, Josh Okogie, and picks for Devin Booker. Who says no to that? Did the Suns say no to that? The Suns aren't going anywhere with Booker. This is unreal. Gerson Rosas should get a ton of credit for pulling this off. I don't care that he gave up Wiggins. I don't care that he gave up a lightly protected first rounder in 2021. He's getting D'Angelo Russell, for goodness sake. Alright, it's worth it. Look, the one thing I'll say about this deal is, I think that Andrew Wiggins has gotten a bad rap all throughout his career. This guy came into the league with an absurd amount of hype. More hype than anyone deserved. LeBron, Durant, Zion, you name it. No one deserved that hype. He was called Maple Jordan before he ever stepped on the court. No one can live up to that. And he immediately gets traded for Kevin Love, who at the time was a double-double machine and was probably the best power forward in basketball. Has Wiggins been a game wrecker? No. Has Wiggins developed into a good three-point shooter? No. But is Andrew Wiggins a guy who can get you 20 points a night? Yes. Is Andrew Wiggins a guy who will do it efficiently? Yes. I'll repeat what I said before. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, and James Wiseman is a fantastic starting five. That's instantly a title contender. The Timberwolves also got Omari Spellman and Jacob Evans in this trade. Two young guns who I like. I like Spellman a lot more than I like Evans, but they both still have a ton of potential. The Timberwolves obviously win this trade. It's not a bad one for the Warriors by any stretch, but the Timberwolves just set themselves up beautifully for the next 3 years. On to the biggest heist of this deadline. Andre Drummond being given away to the Cavaliers. What on God's earth are the Pistons doing? Remember when I said earlier that Arn Tellem wasn't a good basketball mind? This just proves my point. A few hours before this trade went down, the Pistons had said that Drummond was untouchable. At least that's what the reports said. They said that they were going to hold on to him. Now he gets traded for a bag of peanuts? Brandon Knight and John Henson are nobodies. They're not even getting a first rounder out of this. They're getting a second. What is going on in the Motor City? I understand that Drummond's an old school center, and those guys are out of style. But for goodness sake, this guy's a double-double machine. 18 points and 16 rebounds he's averaging. I can't even get my words straight. That's how crazy this is to me. The Cavs easily win this deal. They're not doing this for a playoff push. That ship has obviously sailed. But they do get his bird rights with this trade, which means that they can offer him a 5-year deal and more money than any other team. If they were going to go after him anyway, this gives them the ability to offer him an extra year. The Cavs easily win this trade. It's not even close. And the Pistons are up a certain type of creek without a paddle. They are going to blow things up soon. It's going to be a fire sale of epic proportions. Moving on now to the big 3-team deal that got Marcus Morris and Isaiah Thomas to the Clippers. I really like Marcus Morris. I wanted him on the Nets last year if everything went wrong, if they couldn't get Kyrie and Durant, and they still needed a stretch 4. I thought Morris would have been a perfect fit. He landed with the Knicks, and he balled out. I was perfectly fine with them keeping him. They chose to trade him for a first-rounder and Mo Harkless. Mo Harkless is a nobody. I don't care that he's a local kid. He's not better than Marcus Morris. The pick is fine. The only way that this trade makes sense for the Knicks is if Morris made it clear that he wasn't going to re-sign with them. But whatever. That's perfectly fine. The Clippers just got even scarier than they were. I said before that I thought the Clippers were going to win the NBA title this year. This just reaffirms that. Getting Morris and Isaiah Thomas, a guy who's putting up 12 points per game this year, is scary. I don't care that he's not a good defender. I don't care that he's small. He can still play. The Clippers have to be the odds-on favorite to win the NBA title this year. They're better than the Bucks. They're better than the Lakers. They're better than the Sixers. They're better than all of them. And Jerome Robinson is a guy with a ton of potential still. He's only in his second year. He hasn't gotten an opportunity with the Clippers because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander emerged as one of the best young players in the NBA. Then when the Clippers got Kawhi and Paul George, it didn't work out for him. So he's waited for his opportunity. He's never gotten it. He's going to get it with the Wizards now. Supposedly the Wizards have coveted him for a while. So here's hoping that he gets a legitimate chance to show what he can do. I do like Jerome Robinson. I think he'll be a good player in this league for a while. The Clippers obviously win this trade, but it's not a bad one for the Wizards and Knicks. Alright, I think that's it for today. I'm not going to do a hodgepodge. I don't think it's worth it. The stories aren't earth-shattering anyway. Until tomorrow, I am Jacob Valk saying that baseball is dull only to those with dull minds.